Good morning. There we go. Good morning, commune education revolutionaries. My name is Susan May, and I am the founder of Homeschool Your Non-Speaker, as well as the community Non-Speakers Homeschool Support, which I co-lead with April Bowden. And I'm here today to talk to you about some of the controversy that has been stirred up regarding spelling methods, typing, whether it's pointing at letters on a letterboard or typing on a keyboard. There has been a lot online of controversy stirred up with some major publications. Now, that's the what. That's what we're talking about today. And I called this the ridiculousness of naysayers. I want to talk a little bit before I get going about why. Why even address this? There are people in our community that feel like we shouldn't even give naysayers the time of day, that we should just ignore them, we shouldn't give them our time or energy. And I want to say there is validity to this perspective and this way of dealing with the naysayers. And if that's your way, I totally encourage you to continue on that path, especially for parents that are already on this journey. For parents that already have a practitioner, they're already on the boards with their kids, they believe in this. Yes, you should 100% be putting your focus and your energy into supporting your non-speaker or your unreliable speaker, your child that is learning this communication method. That is where our energy needs to go. And so I agree with that perspective of not feeding the trolls, per se. But I will say this, that societal changes, paradigm shifts take a long time. And we've seen this in the past. So, for example, it's hard for us to believe now, but at certain times in history, for example, the blind, Braille was very controversial. And people didn't think that that it was legitimate. Braille wasn't a legitimate form of reading, communicating for the blind. What about the deaf? Sign language was also resisted. Okay, so we have models of this in the past of this happening, and so my personal belief is that yes, people need to speak up. Yes, we need to share. We need to educate because although change is frustratingly slow, we still need to encourage that change. So that's one reason. The other thing is that I had a friend who's also a practitioner. She's also a member in my community share that she normally ignores these things and doesn't let them bother her. But what occurred recently is she had a client or maybe a potential client share with her that because of all this stuff going on, they're second guessing whether they should even try or whether they should pursue this path. And that is a why, a big why for me. There are so many people that need this. They need this in their lives. It will change their lives. It will change their families' lives. And so that's why for me, when I have the time and energy and the resources, I'm going to continue to share because my big why is obviously Carter. The faster that this change can happen, that more people understand this, that people start respecting him and treating him as an intelligent human being, even though he can't communicate with his voice, the better for his life, for my family's life. So those are my big whys, okay? So that's the what. We've got some controversy. Why are we pursuing this? Because it's necessary. We need to have this conversation. Now, the who. This is not for the naysayers, believe it or not, because I have seen over and over again with controversial issues, humans, we don't respond to logic. There's actually scientific studies about this. If someone is in their head, they've rejected these forms of communication and there's a reason for them to reject them, they are not likely to change their mind. And this is something that April and I continually talk about in our community to help encourage people. You need to know when to choose your battles, who to choose your battles with. To speak up with. If someone has dug their feet in and they're super skeptical, the best thing you can do is protect yourself from that person, from their energy, from their beliefs, because it will not help you or your family. Okay? So this who is this for? It's for the families who need that encouragement to keep going. It's also for our loved ones that maybe they don't have a dog, what do they say? A pony in this race or a dog in this fight. Those are the right analogies, I think. They don't maybe have a non-speaker child or maybe even someone directly in their life, although that's increasingly rare because more and more people have non-speakers in their life. They have autistic or other abled individuals in their life that need this method. But this is for those people so they can start to understand. And so they understand, they can come to me and ask questions, because maybe they see me holding the board for Carter and they're like, well, why does she need to hold the board? This video is not about that today, because all of these questions, these doubts, if you go on one of these controversial articles and you start scrolling the comments, any question that someone has or objection that sounds reasonable to you, it's been addressed. Elizabeth Bonker was just on, I think it was NBC, which is amazing. She's a non-speaker. She was the valedictorian of Rollins College. She was just on NBC speaking up for non-speakers. Now, Elizabeth usually has her mother hold the keyboard, and they asked her in their interview, why? And she answered it, okay? We need to understand apraxia. Now, the things that our families learn about apraxia, presuming competence, are, I would say, the big two. They are easy to understand in our brains. What's more difficult is really starting to embody these beliefs. Really, they're like onions. The longer you work with non-speakers, the longer you see things happen in their lives, the truths become more evident, and you start really feeling them in your bones. You start knowing that they are true. So one encouragement I would give to maybe people that are confused by this issue, like why is there even controversy, is to not go on the comments and to not, instead reach out to a person directly. Read words of non-speakers themselves, because they share all the time what their bodies are like. We can't understand what it's like to live in their bodies and how this brain-body disconnect affects them, because we have no concept of that. Our brains don't work the same way. Our bodies don't work the same way. Okay, so let me just share from my perspective as Carter's mom why all this is so ridiculous. Carter is non-speaking. He's autistic. His body is fast. He stims a lot of the day. Now, when I say stims, he's with his hands, he's, on surfaces, he's vocalizing, he's very loud. So he is not mute while he is non-speaking. He doesn't have intelligible words or language. He is loud and vocal. Okay? What we have seen with Carter over the last 3 years, and 5 years if you count since the time when he was 5 years old, we started working with Dana Johnson in Florida, is this very gradual ability for him to control his body better. Because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to help his brain connect to his body so that he can be purposeful. He can do the things he needs to do. And so how has that showed up? That's showed up that now he can come to a chair of his own volition and sit with me and spell. Before, I had to go and get him all the time. It shows up in that we are no longer on the 3 boards. We started off, I meant to have them here. I'm sorry, I don't have them. We started off on 3 letter boards, and now he's on the 26 letter board. Now, the ridiculousness of these people is that they don't see this progression. And if you're watching videos online, let me just tell you that those videos can be misused because they can be misrepresented. Okay, and how are they misrepresented? They may show you a clip of the person spelling something lined up with a different quote. And so you're like, oh, that's not what they're spelling. Video can be great. It can be powerful, but again, it can be misused. So the most powerful thing, and people that see in person, people that see my child, my beloved Carter, in person, and what his body is like and his mannerisms and how he behaves. And then they see when I say, hey, Carter, I read to him, I say, come over to this chair, spell this word that was in the paragraph. Maybe I spelled it for him, maybe I didn't. Spells it almost perfectly. I'm not moving the board. He is looking with his eyes and he's pointing. Is he perfectly accurate all the time? No, and that's why we're not open yet. You need to know that this is a process that for many families takes years. Carter and I are 3+ years into being consistently on the boards, and he's not open. Now, think about the psychology of this. You're calling parents, you're saying they're being duped by this, or they are, it's crazy when you start talking about it, that they don't understand what's going on with their child, that they are just like hopeful and naive, right? Not true. we see the progress. We see how our child becomes more regulated, more in control of their body. For lots of families, self-harm behaviors, many kids hit their heads. Why? Because they're frustrated. Because can you imagine being locked in your body all the time, not able to communicate? When these forms of communications are given access to our loved ones, often their behaviors like that, their self-harming behaviors diminish. They might not disappear. There's so many examples. Here's a quote from my friend Laura Townsend Kane, because I asked in a post, I said, I'd love to hear your top points about, like, let's debunk the debunkers. Let's show that they're the hoax. We're not the hoax. She said this: my number one point is this: I can't make my 220-pound 17-year-old do anything he does not want to do. Yet, he sits with me every day for 30 to 40 minutes, willingly spelling and working on his high school diploma through the letterboard. That is 100% proof for me and for our family. Yes. And so she said it so perfectly, because that's how I feel about Carter. I'm like, it makes zero sense. Why would a kid whose body can't slow down, who's constantly stimming, who has a very hard time controlling himself, come over and sit and poke at a letterboard calmly if it meant nothing? If it wasn't meaningful to that kid, if it didn't connect him to us, if we didn't see his joy and his like how proud he is of himself and his satisfaction when he gets to choose something, right? He gets to choose bacon or chicken, or he gets to choose what movie he watches, because I give him choices. And you know what I do? I give him a third choice often that says that he doesn't want either of those things. I'll say neither or try again, because I don't want to give him the same choice over and over again. And do you know how often Carter picks the third choice, which is like, Mom, I don't like either of those choices you gave me? These are small things that if you're not in this world, you don't understand. Our lives are 100% improved from the time we start working on the boards, whether our children are open or not. So again, this video is for the families who are on the fence. Number one, if you have a non-speaker, or even in my heart, more important because they're even harder to reach, if you have an unreliable speaker or a minimal speaker and you think, well, my kid can talk, why would they need this? That's what our call is about this month in Non-Speakers Homeschool Support. We're going to talk about minimal, unreliable speakers, because those individuals are even served less often because people think they don't need it. Guess what? They do, because apraxia makes it so our kids' bodies, including their voices, often do the opposite of what they want. Follow Cards by Jacob. Cards by Jacob, he talks about all the time what he's saying, what's coming out of his mouth. A dear friend of mine in Knoxville, Michael McIntyre, he's going to be another one of our guest speakers. He is an unreliable speaker. They tell us on the boards, no, that's not what I wanted. What I said is not what I wanted. So those unreliable speakers, they almost need this more. Okay, so this is for you, to give you encouragement, and to also, so you know what we saw in the documentary and Spellers, the movie, and also, you know, in the book, Underestimated by J.B. Handley and his son Jamie Handley, who's a non-speaker. They got to open very quickly. Well, guess what? The timing was right for them. Jamie was already very regulated. He was an older teen. Lockdowns happened. And guess what their family did? They sat on the boards for hours every day. For someone with a little kid, you know, maybe they're not even 5 years old, 3, 4, 5, because people are learning about these things. You're going to be on the boards 5 minutes at a time because your little person needs to move, just like all 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. They all need to move. They can't be on the boards for hours. So what do? We work off the boards too, right? We work on their motor control. I can talk about this for a long time, and this is already 14 minutes long. I just wanted to share from my perspective as a mom and what I'm learning from people that are farther along this path, whether their child is older or they've just been on the boards longer. There are so many non-speakers, unreliable speakers who are becoming open. There's so many Facebook pages you can follow. Please, if you are considering this, try it. If you know someone, even if you don't feel confident enough to share why it would work or why their child would need it, you can refer them to me. Say, hey, I know this woman, Susan May. Refer them to me. My email is susan@ at homeschoolyournonspeaker.com. The naysayers, you're right, they don't deserve the time of day, but guess who does deserve the time of day? Every single autistic, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, whatever is stopping our loved ones from communicating with their voices, whatever that might be. There's genetic disorders. All of these non-speakers or unreliable speakers, minimal speakers, they deserve communication because literally it changes their lives. It saves lives. There are non-speakers out there sharing how they felt suicidal. They felt they lost hope, you know? And sometimes it looks like they're happy on the outside. Our kids are incredibly it's we can't even understand the power of our children. They are so resilient. They are so strong. And I think that's part of dehumanizing them is it's easier sometimes to think that they just don't know what's going on. Honestly, it's easier to think that they're just happy and out of it, right? Than it is to believe that they're trapped in their bodies and suffering. That's just really hard to accept. So, all right. I love you all. Remember, I want you. This is by Tyler Stoltz. He is a unreliable speaker. Follow him. Follow his mom, Judy Stoltz. It says hop on board. Either hop on board or hop out of the way. That's what I'm asking you today. I'm Susan May, and I want you to join the revolutions. Homeschool your non-speaker.